traditional way, we want to go hybrid way. Is LMS good, or is interactive good, or is a hybrid model good? What are the retention levels? What are the statics? What are the graphs? What is the percentage people retain? How can we overcome the challenges? What is generation X? What is generation Y? So a lot of discussion going around in the room, which was good. I picked up a lot of things around that, which is appreciated as well. Now, if we slightly move back, I want to take this discussion to the next level. I want to take this discussion to the next level, moving from what we have been discussing. What I want to take this discussion is what is the role of technologies in the changing business scenarios today, and how knowledge-based solutions can help L&D to cope up with the change. So, media can be any, it can be hybrid, it can be virtual real, it can be it can be anything, because in my opinion, any media is good as long as it works for you. Because you, as the L&D heads, you as the people know what is your people type, what kind of industry are you in, and what kind of a media is good for you. You decide that, and you're the best people to take a call on that. And we, as service providers, can be innovative with our ideas, we can talk a lot of things, but ultimately you know your people best, you know what works best. Right, on that note, so I'll try to confine this discussion around technology, L&D, changing industry, and knowledge-based solutions only, and I would love it to be as interactive as it can be. I really appreciate your participation, because I strongly believe this is an industry forum, and we all come here, get our heads together, see what are the challenges we are facing, what are the expectations which are out there, what are the opportunities out there, and how can we work together to go to the next level. That's the idea, because at the end of the day, we are all professionals. When we move out of this room, the question which I'm going to ask myself, and I'm very sure, which all of you are going to ask yourself, what did I get out of this? What is my takeaway from this? On that context, let me start. If we go back, going back to the topic, if we look at our generation, I mean, some of you are older than me, some of you are much younger than me, but if we talk about the generation as such, our generation has seen the maximum technology transformation, and it all happened in the last 10-15 years. I'm very sure all of you must have seen those Western black and white TVs, those radios. Dekha sir? Have you seen? Oh, how many of you have seen? At least I have seen, right? All seen those TV radios, right? Then we said, okay, we are in, we got high tech, we are doing better. Then we had these two-in-ones, right? You know what two-in-one. Then we all know entertainment, and we have seen a Walkman, right? Before Walkman, we have seen gramophones, which used to get stuck. And then came the cassettes. T series was the person who got a lot of cassettes. And we all used to carry the Renault pen, right? Because whenever your cassette will get stuck, you will take out the Renault pen, start unwinding it. So Renault was the only thing which could write and which could unwind at the same time. So everybody carried the Renault pen, and I did it. I'm very sure a lot of you did it. So from that, we moved to a generation of DVDs, CDs. Then we moved to iPads. Now before that, iPods, iPads. Now today, we're moving to smarter phones where we have apps around everything. We have an app on our phone, which is an app. You decide whatever you want to do. You can discard an app, you can like an app, you can do whatever you want to go to the app. But when it comes to listening music, you might still want to go to a Kishore Kumar song, or a Lata Mangeshkar song, or for that, anybody whom you like. So the point is, we've seen such a kind of transformation over the years. Now we have been lucky to see this change happening. If you look at the development context of India, I stayed around 12-13 years out of India, around 2 years back, I was back. Everything changed in all this time. And if you relate to what Mr. Ambani said recently, now next 20 years are going to see the development which did not happen in the last 100 years. The last 10 years we saw what could not happen in the last 50 years. That is a fact of life, we've all witnessed it. I imagine what kind of development, what kind of changes will the next generation see? Because we can't even imagine what is going to happen 10, 15, 20 years down the line. We don't know, we could not imagine 15 years back. How do we imagine next 15 years? It's very difficult to imagine. And what is the sole force which is driving it? There's one force which is driving everything around us, not in India, if you see globally, that is the technology. It's all happening because of the technology revolution. Technology is available, technology is cheap, it is made available, we have combined the technologies, we have made technologies available to the every common man. That has changed principally the everything around us. It is the technology revolution and happening in brewing and in continuation. I would say around that's how we are doing. Now, the classical thought is, can you name a domain where we don't see the technology today? Is there any business which doesn't have a technology piece in it? But when we talk of India, we say, okay, IT, technology. But can we say construction doesn't have technology today? No. IT might have 90% of the technology, construction might have 30% of the technology. Because for any business to become robust, to become profitable, to scale up, to go to the next level, we need the technology element to make it global. Look at the e-commerce. We had our Mr. Lewis, I believe, from e-commerce, right? From Flipkart. What made e-commerce possible? Two things: smartphones, technology, payment gateways. If there is no smartphones, there are no payment gateways, there's no e-retail, there's no technology like JD, there's no Manhattan. Do you think e-commerce is possible? Do you think he can run 50 million products on a website? Big data, Hadoop? What is behind all this? All this is technology which is driving all these things. Now, technology, I principally believe technology is every piece of the business. There's not as long as you have a smartphone, as long as you have a PC at your office or at your home, you are using the technology, you're a part of the technology universe. That's a simple fact of life. Now, we cannot run a business today without the technology, right? Do you all agree? Can we have business without the technology? We all use smartphones, right? Now, what is a smartphone? If I slightly move back from the topic, excuse me, I'm not using any slides because I thought you had all enough of facts, figures, numbers. You are all industry veterans, you know all the numbers, and even we guys at times know even how to manage the numbers, right? Do we manage the numbers? We manage, right? We don't know how to manage the numbers. So let's not talk numbers. We're all veterans here, right? Let's not talk numbers. So let's talk and get our heads together and see what can we figure out from here. Now, if you look at a smartphone, what is a smartphone today? It has around 150 kinds of technology pieces sitting on a smartphone. And what all you don't do from a smartphone? You start from your groceries, insurance, banking, Facebook, WhatsApp, kids fees, payment gateway, and you even buy your potatoes using Paytm, get them delivered at your home and get points around it. Imagine 10 years, and you're staying in your car, right? You have a 4G, you're staying in your car. 10 years back, could you imagine something like this happening? So this phone is not a smartphone. I think if I can have the liberty of borrowing the name, it's the communicator. Today, it is the communicator, but Nokia used to give it to the big phone. It's a communicator today we use. We, for the sake of convenience, might say it's a smartphone. Now, usually in businesses world over, there are two schools of thought: innovation and technology. Is innovation driving the technology, or is technology driving the innovation? Is necessity the mother of invention, or is the other way around? Now, in your, you're all industry veterans, you're all seasoned professionals. In your opinion, what is more important? If I take a poll, is it innovation? How many of you agree on innovation? How many of you agree on technology? Catch-22 special, no right answers, but mostly I'm going to be around innovation. Let me take this liberty to give you two live examples which we have all seen going around us. The first example I wanted to talk about is Nokia. There was a gentleman from Nokia also. Nokia, we have seen globally the masters of innovation, because when they put a camera in the phone, that changed everything around the phone. Because that changed Kodak, that changed what a typical phone could do. I still remember I had 95 with 5.2 megapixel cameras. When I bought it 10 years back, I stopped carrying my camcorder because I never knew it. There was no need for a Sony camcorder. That phone could do exactly what I want. 8 GB space was good enough at that time. So we have, and there was a time we had PCs with 40 MB of space from Wipro. The first PCs landing in India. So for my 8 GB on my phone was awesome. And I started using it. So Nokia globally, then what did it do? It paved the way for telcos and service providers to upgrade the bandwidth, because now your phones, you can have photographs, you can have videos. The moment you have photographs, you need to send them. You need to transfer them. So that pushed telcos to invent 2G, invent 3G, and possibly go to 4G. At that point of time, what happens is, that kind of set the pace for the 2G, 3G, 4Gs to come, because there were applications for writing it. And smartphone guys jumped in, they said, why don't we load a lot of apps on it? Because today our e-commerce runs on the apps. Why don't we load a lot of apps on it? Because we have the backhauls to support it. The moment you load apps, you need digital security, you need data security, you need cyber security, you need virus protection. So the convergence of technologies started happening around a smartphone. But if you go a little bit down the lane, unfortunately, Nokia, being the king of innovation, lost on the parameter of adaptation. They did not adapt to the technology change. So Nokia got left out. We all know Apple took over, Samsungs of the world, even Carbons of the world, everybody took his market. It was the Nokia. Nokia was the king. And one of my friends used to be heading that product, and he always said, this we are Nokia, we're not going to change it. Let me not go back to the traditional story of IBM not getting into mini PC market. That's a very old story. So here we see adaptation of technology is the key. We have to adapt to the technology. Another example I would like to take in this context is in changing technology is, we all have used those metallic antennas on a rooftop, watching Doordarshan. How many of you remember? I remember, and you know when the wind used to be on the other side, my luck used to be on the other side also. No TV today, no Chitra today. I still remember I used to watch Chitra because it was only available and it used to come at 8 o'clock in the night. Then slowly things changed with the cable TV. We had this Aurora TV operators, Sign TV operators, they put those black cables in those black boxes. Though they used all the electricity poles because it was illegal, but we all allowed it because we could for the first time see 30 channels, 60 channels. That paved the way for the media industry to enter the Indian market. With media, the content, with the broadcasting technologies, teleports, satellite bandwidth, everything started going around that. So after this industry became sizable, so what did we hear next? IPTV. What is that? First we thought, what is IPTV? So telcos jumped the wagon. They said, okay, that is our opportunity. Now this cable operator guy will go to the business. So came my Airtel, I'll give you a cable. With the router, it will have your channels, it will have your internet, and it will also have your voice. I'll terminate at your house. Then back that time, if you remember, Cisco acquired Linksys. The moment Cisco acquired Linksys, you change everything. You got the chip into a DSL modem. When the chip got into a DSL modem, everything became wireless. So all the DSL modems we got at our home had this chip inside, which made us love wireless. Earlier we used to have access point, and Motorola access points were having around 50 meters, clear line of sight, 2.4 gigahertz kind of a line of sight. So then Cisco, Linksys, this combo changed, and it compelled the market, everybody to put that chip into the modem. So this helped your apps, this helped your broadband, this helped your 3G, 4G to come. Then telcos realized one more thing. Okay, this is an opportunity. Why don't we put content like Times Now, like NDTV, and make it live and push the thing into 4G? So telcos jumped in and said, okay, we'll push it to 4G. Now this cable broadband is becoming up to date because you use your 4G, 3G, you watch the things around that, right? Now here comes another person. Now Mr. Ambani wakes up and says, hey, it's a big market, what I am doing? Reliance Jio, 10 times faster than 4G, 1/10 the price. You develop the market, I take it on. So comes another paradigm. But we love our entertainment, so Apple says, why should I leave behind? He comes with a box as big as an adapter, with a username password. He says you connect it to a phone, PC monitor, computer screen, and you get your entertainment on your fingertips. So you carry your entertainment in your briefcase, in your box. This big is Apple TV, right? And the content is damn cheap. Any content in the world, millions of movies and all that, you carry them. So that is how we have seen another change of technology happening. Now, the point I want to make here is these businesses evolved, developed because of the technology. So we might make a business plan for 10 years, but the key is, will that business plan hold? Do we have a technology plan around it? Because in today's time, we need to have a technology plan around a business plan. We might buffer sales plans, we might buffer arbitrage, we might buffer things around that. But do we have a technology plan around it? The answer is no. Today, in today's time, a lot of things are primarily driven by the technology change. What can technology do? Big data, Hadoop really changed the way we do. SQL and MySQL were not there. After some time, they were just flattened out. So this is how technologies are changing the way we think. Now today, in today's time, what are we seeing? That adaptation to technology is mandatory. It's not optional. We have to adapt to the technology. Another aspect which the speaker right now brought is going to bring it up. We all know cloud is a technology. Brilliant technology, bringing a lot of change in the way we do business, but it poses a lot of threats to the hardware industry. No need to take names, we all know names. It was in economic times. It poses a big threat to hardware industry. Now, our hardware industry, out of a sudden, has a new thing which never came up. It could never imagine where on this cloud will come and change the giants of the world. They are giants. I don't want to take names. We all know their names. They are the giants of the world. If I take the name of one, the Liberty man, Cisco, it changed the way we could go to the internet. Credit go to Cisco. The biggest MPLS networks in the world work on Cisco. But now the same is happening by the cloud. So the technologies are creating jobs, they're creating opportunity, but they're also threatening somewhere along the line. Now, what does this mean? Why I'm telling all this? It goes, let me relate it to the L&D and the learning solutions, knowledge-based solutions around it. Now what happens? So our customers are changing. Their projects are changing. When I talk to my fellow counterparts in the industry and my customers, They say, Sumit, there are no green pasture projects. We are no longer putting 600 people in a telco in Indonesia and it's a good life. Projects are getting smaller. They are getting agile. Technologies are changing fast. We have to very fast adapt to technology. Customers want us to do development, not maintenance. It's 90% development, 10% maintenance. It used to be the other way. I don't want to take names, but this is how the industry is shaping. Now, when things are changing, what happens next? But we are in business. We can't go out. We can't hang our boots, right? Can we? Can we hang our boots? No, we are too big to hang our boots, right? So, in this context, the nature of L&D changes. L&D is no longer a vanilla function. L&D is no longer a part of HR function. L&D is no longer a good to have function. Let us have L&D function. Now, L&D has become the engine which will make sure your manpower is updated, your skill set is intact, you remain in the business, you sustain in the business. So there's a new role for L&D, and even when I talk to my customers today, L&D is also shaping up. They are getting used to this trend. They say the projects are changing, the needs are changing. We cannot plan 1 year's calendar, we have to plan 3 months calendar. Everything is now, when do you want? I want it yesterday. Everything is driven by my projects. I have to work according to them. So that's how even the L&D function has changed and evolved over the years. What are the challenges in front of the L&D today? If we name the 3 major challenges L&D faces, and all of you, whoever is L&D professional will agree with me, the first change is you have to constantly adapt to this technology change. And when? Yesterday. When do you need it? Yesterday. When can you start it? Tomorrow morning. Point number 1. Second thing is, because things are getting competitive, we are, when we talk of cloud and hitting the hardware industry, well, let's talk about automation coming in, which is going to hit us out there. Automation usually, robotics follows automation. If you look globally, robotics follows automation. So that's the next thing which is going to come. It's still up in US, we don't see it too long before it hits here. Now with these changes, what does L&D need to do? I need to train my set of people into multiple technologies, multi-facilitated manpower. And third thing, not only that, what are the future projects my company is going to get into? We have a plan A, plan B, plan C. So I also need to have my people ready for a plan A. I need my people ready for a plan B. I need my people ready for a plan C. And these plans are not driven by the L&D, they are driven by the business. But my job is to make sure that our manpower assets are in place. Now, in fact, we are working with a lot of customers to this transition management and changes. Now, with all those changing scenarios and all the challenges L&D has, what does come next? Let me talk about a practical example. As an L&D professional, you get a call. Look, how many times you are not able to find a faculty for 15 days, 10 days, not the correct set of skill? It happens. When you get a call from a project and say, hi, I need a project. Now, what do you need? I need a program. Let's give an example. I'm not talking too much of jargon. I will give SAP HANA. I need BI. I need BO and ABAP in it. And last 3 days, I want to have a overview of Hybris. Hybris integration into SAP. Good luck. Now go and find me a trainer, and when do it, this is the project need. So with these changing requirement types, and I want it real, I want it live virtual, I want some of people are offshore, some are here. I want it to structure after the billing hours because I don't want to take people out of the billing. I don't want them to work on Sunday, so do it in the morning. We will find a common time slot. And the $1 million question, when do you want it? Yesterday. What is the price? Minimum. What is the value? Maximum. Satisfaction level at most. Say, what do you mean by at most satisfaction level? After you people are trained, I want them to go and run the project and deliver it. If they are able to do it good enough, otherwise you guys have screwed up. So you and your vendor are all screwed up. Okay. So it's a practical life. Now I want a Python but VB6. I want DevOps, but I want 4 more technologies into DevOps. Now what does it mean? We as service providers have to become agile, right? Not even that. Now this is a question of agility. When we talk of such fast changing things, the key note which we have to understand here, businesses are changing and we have to adapt, right? Now the L&D function says, okay, I need this DevOps, I need it yesterday. So we are all running and trying to get it done somehow, because that's what our job is. In that such of need, there is always a need for a differentiated service provider, because your traditional program will not work, your customized program will not work, your tailored program will not work. What is the need of the world? Level 3, integrated program. I want a 10 days program covering this, and I only want these 2 modules. I don't want this module. I want this module in depth, and I want hands-on. I want virtual labs, and I want to cater to all my people in one. Correct? This is the need of the hour. But this What does this lead to? This leads to the need of a service provider who can really cater to this needs. Because when I started this company around 3-4 years back, I could see this happening because I have been doing technology all my life, I mean technology sales all my life. So I could see this happening. I traveled to more than 60 countries, sold everybody, but except Chinese. Chinese were difficult because they're used to getting the money. They don't give the money. Anyway, Kazakhs and Mongols, they all give, but Chinese don't give. But the main point is that when you do that, there's a need of a knowledge service solution who can put all these pieces together for you. And you don't want 5 faculty coming in taking 5 technologies. You want somebody to start, somebody to end, customize it, be responsible for end-to-end delivery and labs, and get a complete package delivered to a team and make sure your team is happy, it flows in the flow. And if they want to fire somebody, first you, then you, me. Right? So they should have that liberty of firing somebody else. So we come into that picture. Now today, talking a little bit about OLES, we having almost 5 years in business, we're having 150 customers. We are catering to more than 40 domains. We have delivered more than 2,000 unique technology programs. So the number of programs delivered are much higher. Now more than 2,000 unique technology programs. We are going into 20 countries now where we are delivering programs. So we're doing all mix. We are doing classroom, we are doing hybrid, we are doing virtual, real virtual, active, passive, whatever you want, all the terminologies of the world, because at the end of the day, English is a very funny language. You know, I'll take you an example. You stole my pen. What can I have your name, ma'am?
Pooja.
Pooja stole my pen. Pooja stole my pen. Pooja stole my pen. Pooja stole my pen. All 3 meanings. Same name, all 3 meanings. That's English. So let's not get worried about semantics. The opportunity is great. Now, what do we need to do? We as service providers and you as L&D people, we need to think out of the box. We need to understand the situation. We need to understand expectations. Be receptive to new ideas. Be receptive to new things. Be agile in our thinking. Give people opportunities. Have that trust relationship and get into a partner-principal relationship rather than a vendor relationship. Because the moment you say vendors, they are plural, right? There are a lot of them. But when you say partner, it becomes a little bit, okay, you're my good buddy, I can talk to you. And that's the opportunity. But the $1 million question is, you know, you will tell me, why should we collaborate? What is on the table? You see, when it comes to me, I'm a passionate Indian. I love my country. You know, I had the opportunity of changing my passports all over the world, 12 years, 13 years, but I never did it. I still hold the Indian passport. 8 passports are filled, but I'm happy with it. The thing is, India is a country which exports $175 million per exports. We produce the highest number of engineers in the world. We have an 800 million young workforce. We have a government which is pro-business, pro-entrepreneurship. And you know, what all facilities you need, they are there, right? We have the experience, we have the knowledge. We have the experience, we have the knowledge, we have the archives. We have the manpower, we have the agility. Whatever is needed, not only to sustain, but to grow in this business and take it to the next level. We have everything in place. But the only challenge is getting our act together, working in collaboration, because there is nobody in the world who can take us our market now, but that might not be the case. Things are coming up, people are coming up. Our L&D market globally is a $350 billion market, growing at a CAGR of 7%. We can imagine the amount of opportunities for all of us. But the only key is that, are we ready? Are we going to go for it? If it's back in US, they say, let's go for it. But we will make, the day we resolve, let's go for it, sky is the limit. And there are service providers, because when I consulted this company, I thought there will be a sizable market like this, which will shape up. So I designed the company, I designed our systems, processes around to cater to this market only, and I'm happy to know and to share with you, we are seen like that. We are seen as a knowledge solutions provider, covered by a lot of media, Business India, ANI News, Yahoo News, a lot of them. So that is all pretty there. But besides that, I see a phenomenal opportunity for growth. But the fact remains, we can grow together. We cannot grow, I cannot grow in isolation. I cannot be selling things in Mars. If you grow, I grow. If you don't grow, I don't grow. It's as simple as that. So on that note, I would like to emphasize 3 critical parameters. Technology is changing, markets are changing, knowledge-based solutions is the need of the hour, and agility to the adaptation of technology is the key. Now you have to adapt the technology, but how fast? And last is L&D has to go into a different enhanced role. It's no longer a passive role, it's no longer we make calendars and roll them out. No. We are the people who are going to make sure that corporates remain and sustain in business. So on that note, thank you very much. Do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
Since you've used my name with a very incorrect, wrong sentence.
That was talk how beautiful English is.
That's fine. So, as you said that technology is ever changing, we keep talking about we don't go ahead and roll out the calendars, you've come down to quarterly calendars. So I manage the technology trainings for my organization. And what we normally hear back from, am I audible to it?
Yeah, you are.
That's, so, my question is that what we hear from our business is that training function or L&D function has to be proactive rather than reactive. As of now, at this stage, we are reactive. Somebody would come and say, we need a big data training, we need a DevOps training.
Absolutely.
How can we, as L&D partner, become more strategic? And before the business comes in, you know, with their needs, how can we be proactive and telling them that this is what we have to offer?
Okay, let me try and answer that now. I was trying to understand that we are knowledge solutions integrator, but we want to push ourselves in the market. So our solutions are consultative in nature. If you work with us, we want to get in touch with your leaders, your SMEs, understand what is their requirement, what exactly do they want out of this thing. Because the ROI is a direct match to the expectation, because you may not be a technical person, you might not know what the project wants, they might not even share with you, but we come, our SMEs come, they understand what exactly the need of the project is, then we propose to them. But if you're in regular touch with us, for example, we also keep on sending you newsletters and all where we say what are the latest programs we have delivered for all the other corporates. Right, so that also helps you to be attuned what is happening around in the nature, because today the need of the hour is consultative learning solutions, which have to be done in what you rightly said, it's not about big data, but exactly in big data. What is the pain point? What exactly do I want, let's say example, I want to pay 2 lakh rupees, what do I want to achieve in this 2 lakh rupees in the next 3 days? Or I have a budget of 1 lakh rupees, what can I get in the next 3 days? You know, there have been situations when the teams have been at client location, suddenly they figure out they are not up to the mark, and we start the program. There have been situations, my teams are flying out, I have 7 days, do it in 7 days. I ask them, can we start from a Tuesday? No, you have to start from tomorrow, because Sunday evening they are taking off. Or Saturday evening they are taking off. So that is the need of the business, because the businesses are changing, budgets are tighter, they want consultative solutions, they want the things which help them to deliver what exactly customers expect. And overall, if you look at the businesses are getting smaller, if you look recently at Infosys, they are trying to break the business into smaller business units to have more, have more focus, have more clarity, have more traction, and basically to make them more agile. One of the things when you make the businesses smaller is to bring the agility, the component of agility into the business. I have answered your question. Anybody else?
What does Aurelius mean?
So Aurelius, there are 2 things about it. In Greek, it means golden. Though I don't wear any gold, but there's another connotation around it. There was a gentleman called Marcus Aurelius. He was a Roman king. He said something very important. He said, if something is, you can Google it and find it. He said, if something is not beyond your intellect and caliber, that doesn't mean it is beyond the collective intellect and caliber of mankind. So he was the first person who got this concept of working together, joining forces and doing the impossible. If I have to move a rock, sorry, bad luck. But if 5 of us get together, work together, we can definitely move a mountain. What's the rock? So that is where I picked this name Aurelius from. And in Aurelius, we believe in we will and we can. That has been the mantra, and we always do it. Any other questions? I hope I'm taking much of your time. Any other questions? Allow it to be as interactive as you can, because that's the idea. I want to learn from you. You're the veterans, you're the experts. I've been only a few years in this. So I want to learn from you, I want to share your experience, because when we all go home, we know, okay, this is what we take from today. This is what we get today from it. Any questions, sir, ma'am? Anybody? If or not, thank you very much. Jai Hind. Oh, I'm carrying the mic also.